big question that we get asked a lot these days is about psychedelic intervention. So I want to start this off with the phrasing that psychedelic intervention is an original form of indigenous medicine, meaning humans throughout time have always gone around and tried things. It's how we've found what food is. Someone had to eat the first mussel. And I don't know who that was or how hungry they were, but we know that we've eaten a lot of them through human history. Same thing with mushrooms. There's some point in history where somebody 50,000 or 25,000 or some time ago, one dude ate a mushroom and frothed at the mouth and died. Another dude ate a mushroom and saw his version of God. And that mushroom and that lineage of what that substance in that mushroom was able to do carried on in the indigenous medicine model. So all around the world, we have psychedelic intervention methodologies in the indigenous medicine community. We see it right now when we talk about shamans. And I use this word very loosely. If you are a true healer and you want to go down the shamanistic path, brilliant. Happy for you. Love the practice. All too often these days, we have people who experience an awakening that is very powerful under psychedelics of some kind, and then they too wish to transmit that experience to others. And let me be clear, that is where danger comes in. This is where when the establishment tells us that this is pseudo-medicine, this is why. The practitioners that we work with are neuroscientists. They have an ability to look at a human, hear what's going on, and go, you keep dating people that are very similar to your mother because you don't have a grown sense of self and you are self-deprecating in your mind, unable to value your own existence. And it reflects in your dating habits. This is where MDMA, which is an extraction off of sassafras. This is where it comes out of. It is biochemically suppressing the negative reflexive ideation in your brain, promoting the other side. It allows you to hear yourself think without negative construct. This is why we originally used it in the 70s as the marriage drug. The original research for MDMA had nothing to do with clubbing. It was a bunch of psychiatrists and psychologists and researchers in Texas in the 70s who wanted to do a year's worth of couples counseling in a day. And that's exactly what we ended up getting out of it. Problem was, like most substances, humans took it, abused it, and then we scheduled it. And this is where we've lost a lot of indigenous medicine because of recreational abuse. Over and over again. This is a backstop intervention. This isn't something you do 12 times in a year. This isn't something you travel to Mexico recreationally for to have some fun with friends. If you need Bufo more than once or twice in your life, it helps you to experience death. How many times do you need to die to get the point? This is where it's medicine. True shamans, healers, are doctors of their own order. They work within a plane that isn't just psychochemical. You're also going at the fifth dimensional self because most of these drugs contain a form of DMT that allows us to access the pineal gland, which is the blast-off point in the brain that all of you comes in through, in our opinion. So when we get asked the question of psychedelics, the very first thing we will say is, what else have you tried? Because this should not be your first stop. After we've gone through the other indigenous models, if we still find dysfunction that is consistent, that is not reacting to normal other tier 1 model intervention therapies, we will discuss the bridge that is going into tier 2, where we enter into the conversation of psychedelics. But when I am asked, I know someone who serves MDMA, or I know someone who does, I'm sorry, but we don't have a list of 100 practitioners. I have a list of 4. 4 people across the United States that I am willing to work with because they are true practitioners, they are true healers. Their expertise is in neuropharmacology, and they're the ones who look at some people and go, ah, you are an addict. Yes, and this is from a place of dopamine seeking and retreat. You are escapism. Great. Ibogaine does a very specific neurochemical reset back to genetic baseline. We joke around that it's like the old Windows 98 reinstall disk. The issue with understanding it from a broad perspective is a lot of people go into the Ibogaine experience and go, hey, this is great. I've come back, I have no urge for anything. And then 30 days later, they're right back into their old habits. And if you look at the majority of longitudinal studies on Ibogaine, on ayahuasca, on others, we find an incredibly high recidivism rate. Currently, with the groups that I study, our recidivism rate is 78% within 6 months. What this tells us is that it's an access point, not a cure. It is a way to start a process, not the end result. Once you're done with Ibogaine, integration is where the true restructuring of the brain happens. And to go back to the Windows 98 install disk, if you have downloaded a lot of porn onto your computer with a lot of malware, the Windows 98 reinstall disk only reinstalls the operating system, temporarily removing the malware's ability to act on the computer. But if you don't go through and delete the malware in the pornography after the reinstall, and then update your demand for the porno to begin with, changing your structural baseline, the way that you engage with your addiction or habit, it's going to come right back. And you're going to have to hit the reinstall again. So this is why we see guys who go every year, every so often, to do all these heavy interventionist drugs. And there's only one that I will claim I am comfortable with people doing semi-repeatedly is cactus, San Pedro. The reason for it is mescaline is the synthesized version out of it. But if you only synthesize one alkaloid out, we're gonna have a problem. There are over 300 active alkaloids in the cactus plant. And it is the only one that, instead of blasting you off into something else, helping you to understand existential dilemmas or self, this is the one that brings you in, makes you hyper-aware and present. It's a reset to where we would prefer you to get under meditation. It is a reference point. Again, the drug will give us the touchstone, but if you don't learn how to do it while sober, you'll end up in the hamster wheel of this medical model over and over again, never getting anywhere. Am I a fan of it? Yes. Just like I'm a fan of surgery when you shatter your leg. But am I a fan of surgery when you bump your knee? No. Am I a fan of not going after the underlying issue that requires you to then seek the therapy? No. And this is the big misunderstanding we're having right now in the psychedelic community, that this is not a spaghetti method for everybody where it all gets thrown against the wall and we see what sticks. This is powerful interventionist medication at an indigenous level that requires respect and it requires protocol. And that's why there are only 4 people in the country I am willing to work with. If you have questions, if you want to know more, if you need resources, hit us up in the comments.